had this little idea of a clown, just very simplistic, very basic.
Move on. That's Damien, the director.
It's been so long since there's been an iconic slasher franchise character.
You know, I've asked some distributors and stuff. They said killer clowns cannot sell a movie.
It is the horror, thriller, slasher, gore film that's taking the entire country by storm.
But I do think it is the Art the Clown character is worth checking out if you're just a casual horror fan. Horror fans want a new slasher icon.
Hi.
And that's the bad guy.
Hi. How are you? I'm gonna kill.
Okay, so I remember first seeing Art the Clown when Terrifier was on Netflix and thinking that clown looks unstable and freaky. I didn't watch it though, because I thought it seemed kind of silly. Which is true, but it turns out that these movies are also pretty disturbed. And this heinous clown is actually an elite horror villain. I feel like you could say to someone, I'm gonna watch Terrifier, and then maybe they're like, what? And then you show them this and they know what you're talking about. This face kinda moves the needle, which is kinda crazy to do in the evil clown niche, where your competition is a motherfucker that can do this, and one of the greatest villains of all time. I know he's faced allegations of being an industry plant horror icon, but with the first Terrifier being an indie horror film with a budget of $35K and no real marketing, I'm afraid he did this the hard way. The first movie did benefit from the Netflix stimulus package, but that was like 2 years after it came out. I feel like Art the Clown is so interesting because it's kind of rare that we get a horror icon these days. Not just a solid antagonist in a popular horror movie, but a character that actually transcends the movie that they're in. Like, how many have there been in the past 15 years? Yes. Damn, point ruined, huh? No! I hate these movies, but I guess. Gabriel was cool, but no. Great movie, but no. Nah. I feel like this demon is carried by that one jump scare. Nah. Maybe. I don't know. Yes.
Huh?
So there's definitely so there's like some, but I feel like Art the Clown is the closest to those classic slasher icons. You know, the ones. He is ridiculously recognizable, has 3 movies, a Funko Pop, silly little shirts at Hot Topic and Spencer's, is in Call of Duty, and was literally made because creator Damien Leone felt like the 2010s didn't have a distinct horror icon.
He's sort of filling that void of slashers that we loved in the 80s and bringing sort of that charm that Freddy Krueger had. He's very charming, he's funny, you want to be his friend in one moment, but the next he...
And after saying that he was getting a 3rd movie, I finally decided to be a real horror movie summary channel and watch the Terrifier movies. I know I'm late. Sorry, my prod is at the cleaners. So I went to watch the first Terrifier, but when I did that, I saw this other movie with Art's face on the poster. Yeah, this movie is something. To start his film career, Damien Leone made 2 short films. The Ninth Circle in 2008 and Terrifier in 2011, both of which feature Art the Clown. A producer ended up seeing Terrifier on YouTube and wanted to include it in an anthology film with shorts directed by different filmmakers, similar to VHS. But Damien was like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing, and convinced the producer to let him create a feature film centered around Art. It would still have that anthology format, but he would be the sole director. So he used the 2 shorts he already had as the first and last films in the movie, made a new short to go in the middle along with the frame narrative to make it feature length, and just like that, we have All Hallows Eve, which definitely has VHS vibes. The movie literally starts with 2 kids finding a VHS tape in their bag on Halloween, and they decide to watch it with their babysitter Sarah. And being that this is Damien Leone's first short film, and the budget was probably like 3 McChickens, the production value isn't amazing.
I don't want to die. Shut up!
But you can see that there's something here. A woman is waiting for a train when suddenly we are introduced to Art the Clown for the very first time. But he's like the Temu version. He kind of just looks more like a guy in a costume as opposed to like a creature. I don't know, I feel like I could wrestle him down and put him in a guillotine or something. But he still looks creepy and has a lot of the qualities that make the version from the Terrifier movies so good.
Please stop.
He's such a little freak. So Art poisons this woman and she wakes up in chains with 2 other women who end up dying. She gets taken to this other place where she's tied down and surrounded by hooded monsters. There's a pregnant woman who gets her baby cut out from her and the blood is given to Satan. This is actually what my asshole looks like. Who drinks it and licks his lips. Freak bitch. Then random shots flash on the screen and the tape ends. So the idea behind the random assortment of horror character archetypes was to throw a bunch of shit out there and see what stuck. And Damien found something with Art, leading him to make the Terrifier short film in 2011, the final short in this movie. But as I mentioned, he needed to add another short film to make All Hallows Eve feature length. And he didn't want there to be too much Art the Clown in the movie before the Terrifier short, so that it would be more impactful. As a result, Art is not in this next tape, physically. Pretty much this woman is home alone and an alien crashes down and breaks into her house. Is that an alien wearing an alien mask? You know, he was just trying to fit in. And what are these movements? It finds the woman and drags her away, during which she pulls the sheet off a painting of Art the Clown, and it's over. So yeah, this is definitely just the filler film with this painting being added in to keep the theme of Art consistent. This shit is so random. But that leads us to the last and by far best short in this movie, Terrifier 2011. Art is back with an upgraded look, much more similar to his standalone films. And he is no longer a middleman who drugs people. He was tired of being a loser and a punk bitch. His first kill is him sawing off a guy's head at a gas station. Very much a sign of what is to come. A woman sees him do this and flees the scene in her car, but she decides to stop when she sees a car parked on the road to try and get help. I don't know, I feel like I would have kept driving instead of hoping the car with hazards on would help me. The person in the car has essentially had their face sliced off, and the woman gets freaked out and starts driving again. But of course, Art is now in her car. He tracks her down again and beats her with a whip that has knives, scalpels, and a syringe attached to it.
It's supposed to be human braids of women he's killed.
He eventually ends up taking her to his lair where he carves offensive words into her and cuts off her limbs. It's quite disgusting. The practical effects for a movie with this kind of budget are pretty insane. And Damien Leone just did them himself. Okay, Beast. What's cool about this is that you can see how much better he got from his first short. Like, the progression is incredible. And honestly, I like the way the overall movie ends. The VHS tape is cursed. The TV turns on by itself, Art steps into the frame, and starts being an aggressive mime. The TV then becomes a mirror, and Sarah, the babysitter, can see Art behind her, but he's not actually there in real life. Like, come on, that's good. For context, the kids went to bed after the first tape, but she decided to keep watching. And in between each film, there's been hints that someone else is in the house. She smashes the tape and Art disappears, but we then hear the kids screaming. And Sarah goes to find their severed heads sitting next to each other with Art written on the wall in blood. He really went there, didn't he? The fact that these are kids might make this the craziest thing this character has done. I mean, I know there's the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2, and I haven't seen Terrifier 3 yet, but fuck, just saw Terrifier 3, it gets crazier. This movie is interesting. I think a lot of its shortcomings come down to the budget and Damien Leone being at the beginning of his filmmaking career, but you can see the potential of Art the Clown is clearly there. Looking back on it, I almost feel as if they should have just gone with the idea to make the Terrifier short a part of an anthology film with different directors. I think that would have made for a better movie. I mean, the first film in this is literally Damien just trying to figure shit out, and the second one is filler. I'm not going to say he didn't care about it, but clearly he wanted the attention and emphasis to be on the final film to showcase Art. And for good reason. He found the potential horror icon he was looking for. And even though it's not technically his first appearance, I think this serves as a proper introduction to the art that we know and sets the tone for the Terrifier movies. This is kind of just a condensed version of the first Terrifier. You see his psychotic mannerisms, his unique look, the gore. The goal was to introduce Art the Clown to a larger audience and show that he can carry a franchise on his back. And after a little crowdfunding and the help of a guy named Phil Falcone, alright mob boss, we get Terrifier 2016.
And it wasn't until I made the second short film with him, which was called Terrifier, and that's when I made him a slasher officially, and I started really developing his sick, sadistic sense of humor, and that's when I kind of had the light bulb moment inside, and I said, he really is cool, and he can go far. I need to put him in a feature.
Welcome back to the program. If you're just tuning in, I'm sitting here live with the sole survivor of the Miles County Massacre.
A survivor of Art the Clown is being interviewed for a TV segment, the interviewer being the woman who played the babysitter in All Hallows Eve. Damn! Fuck. This news anchor ends up talking shit about the survivor, who overhears her and gouges her eyes out. Alright? So the actual main characters are these two friends, Tara and Dawn, who are coming back from a Halloween party when they see Art, who is now played by David Howard Thornton.
Let's hit girls! Cookies!
After the other guy retired. The makeup for Art takes like 3 hours to do, and then you have to be in the makeup for another 10 hours, so he was like, nah. But I definitely think the switch worked out for the better. Art's face looks slightly different to me, and there's small changes with the makeup, but for the most part he looks the same as he does in the short. But the big difference is in the body acting and dickhead mannerisms of this version. In the short, Art feels more like a really sick man in a clown suit, whereas here he just feels like a straight up clown, if that makes sense. He's always like this, like a clown gave birth to him, and it was dick birth. You've got Freddy Krueger vibes, Jim Carrey vibes, hell, Mr. Bean vibes, and the fact that David Howard Thornton has previous mime experience, which is hilarious, makes it that much better. He's even played the Joker for a YouTube video, like he was born to do this.
Can you hear me now?
I think this goofy shit really does take the character to another level. It's also interesting how he was created to be the complete opposite of Pennywise to make him stand out, because Pennywise had a monopoly on the horror clown industry. Pennywise is colorful. Art is black and white. Pennywise has hair. Art does not. Pennywise speaks. Art doesn't. Pennywise doesn't use weapons. Art uses any weapon he can find. He stands out so much from slashers of like the past 10 years, but is also a combination of the most popular slashers from the 80s and 90s.
With his personality, sort of the dark humor of Freddy, the silent stalker slasher like Jason and Michael Myers, he's more gritty like Leatherface.
Art follows the girls to this pizza place, and the physical acting, along with the lack of speech and the way they edit this, make him so funny, but also creepy in this scene.
Are you okay?
Me when I do Kegels. Art gets kicked out of the restaurant after randomly deciding to blow up the bathroom. Like he nuked that shit. He wrote his name on the wall with his shit, and it's chunky. What could you possibly eat? Wait, oh my god. He had a Bojangles mukbang! Biscuits and tenders and fries!
Tick, tick, boom. Like a powder keg in your mouth.
He has shit on his hands. So like, did he wipe his ass with his hand? Or did he like squeeze some shit? He comes back later and kills both of the workers, where we see that just like it is in the short, his killing style is ravenous and messy. He's not just gonna stab you a few times in the chest. He's gonna stab you in the eyes, stab you in the cheek and wiggle it around and completely destroy your face. And maybe make it look like a jack-o'-lantern. Meanwhile, the girls go to their car and find that their tire has been slashed. And Tara has to pee, so she goes to ask this pest control guy to let her into this disgusting apartment building where there's venom piss in the toilets. During this, she meets this character known as Cat Lady, who is never actually seen with a cat. No!
I'm gonna need you to fuck off me right now.
She wanders through the creepy apartment and ends up running into Art. This is so good. Like, was he just standing there like this? How long was he posing like this? Ah! And I love this jump scare. Art ends up capturing both girls and forcing Tara to watch him saw Dawn in half, which is so fucking crazy. It's at this point where I was like, oh shit, this is not some silly evil clown movie. I'm sorry, I was not familiar with your game. It goes from your average slasher with a really unique killer and kills that are a little crazy to fully embracing grindhouse level violence with insane practical effects. Before this, it's like this being made with a $35,000 budget is cool but seems reasonable. And then you get to stuff like this and it's like, how?
The vast majority of the money went into makeup materials. So I know, and I did writer, director, editor, makeup effects, sound design, like everything you could possibly do. Like,
it also helps that Damien Leone is like the LeBron of special effects. When he was 12, he got his first makeup starter kit, a bottle of fake blood, and a real machete. And he would give his friends fake cuts and gashes to go home and freak out their parents. He was literally destined for this. These two together was never going to fail. Tara escapes and beats Art's ass with a plank. But after critically injuring him, she for some reason insists on yelling at him to get up instead of just killing him while he's like this. He did not just pull out a gun. With this 007 ass pose. Why did he throw his arm back like that? Something about him walking around with a gun just in case he gets too beat up feels like cheating, but I respect it. Like, he's really shameless. And he just kills her. He looks like one of those "we live in a society" memes. So at this point, we've got about 30 minutes left and our main protagonist is dead. Our actual final girl is Tara's sister, Victoria, who Tara called to come pick her up earlier when the car tire got slashed. So Art goes after her and people who happen to be walking around the building. And this is when the movie kinda started to lose me a little. This movie is a showcase for Art, and really a longer version of the 2011 short film. And it's like, yeah, obviously. But I mean, in the short, the focus was on Art and the gore, as opposed to fleshing out characters or having much of a plot. And it's the same thing here, just stretched out over an hour and a half. Art stalks two characters who are very one-dimensional and have no backstory or any kind of depth. So they're more so just targets as opposed to real characters that could actually make us care about them. Dawn is drunk and Tara is her responsible friend. And that's pretty much it.
Hey, handsome! Cut it out. My friend wants your number. Fucking kill you.
And like these characters, Art also doesn't have any backstory or clear motivations. So it really is just him mindlessly killing characters who are barely even that. But I don't know, I feel like these are common criticisms for this movie. I mean, Damien Leone said himself that if he could go back, he would flesh out Don's character more. And the focus on Art and the kills was definitely intentional. I don't even think any of this is really bad. I just got to a point where my tummy was full and I didn't want to eat anymore. There is a shit ton of Art in this movie. He has about 20 minutes of screen time in this, which when spread out across a movie that is 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 8 seconds, including credits, it feels like he's in the entire movie. For reference, Michael Myers is in the original Halloween for 10 minutes, and Freddy is in Nightmare on Elm Street for 7 minutes. Now this of course seems like more than it is when you're actually watching the movies, but they also don't need a ton of screen time because the threat of them is always there. It also kind of gives them more aura, I feel. Again, showing this much Art was intentional, but personally I was good after like 45 minutes. Despite all this, the kills are still very insane throughout the rest of the movie. Art pretends to have mommy issues with Cat Lady before scalping her, cutting her titties off, and wearing them. What the fuck, man? Cuts this guy's head off. He then rides around on a small tricycle. This is crazy dick suck, by the way. Get the fuck off that bike. Make your own legacy. Alright, so here's how the movie ends. Art tries to suffocate Victoria with the plastic bag, and she struggles for like a minute before realizing that it's a plastic bag. He's so unserious. Victoria runs away and finds Tara dead. While she's distraught, Art finds her and starts whipping her before getting knocked out by the pest control guy. He calls the police and tries to escape, but Art smashes his head with his massive clown shoes. After Victoria stabs him in the eye, he continues to be a freak and hits her with a truck. He just be in his own world for real. You wouldn't get it. You don't even know him like that. He then starts chewing her face. Okay, didn't know we were on that weird shit. The police show up and tell him to show his hands. And Art is like, bang, bang. He gets taken to this interesting looking morgue where he reanimates and kills the medical person. So he has supernatural abilities like he does in All Hallows Eve. So let's assume that he knew he would come back to life after doing this. That means that instead of fighting the cops, he was just like, nah, y'all are fighting back way too hard. I'm good. Bang, 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 you're dead. Victoria ends up surviving, and we fast forward a year later where we see that she was the woman being interviewed at the beginning of the movie. Terrifier is a great showcase of a character and practical effects. And it's clear that this means something to Damien Leone. Bro really loves this shit. Which makes it hard not to root for this and him. He does some insane shit with the budget in this, and even the shortcomings I feel like help it to be that cult classic. Like, some people might criticize the acting, but I feel like it fits and is kind of funny. Yeah, this movie is disturbed, but the tone is also a little campy and silly.
How can you eat a greasy croissant while you're cutting up dead bodies?
And I'm like a really gifted and talented actor, so like I would know.
That was the first nipple I'd had in my mouth since mom's. But nipples are like bicycles. Once you learn, you never forget how.
Damien Leone loved the 80s and 90s slasher icons and wanted to make one of his own. So he did. And I think this serves as a great official introduction to Art the Clown. Now imagine if you gave him a plot and real characters. Yep, this is the one. So as I just mentioned in the previous section of this video, Terrifier was another showcase for Art the Clown, a longer one. Damien Leone was like, here's this fucko, here's some crazy kills, you want more, yes or no? And the answer was yes, please. And with this success, he wanted the sequel to be a lot more ambitious.
So when I wrote the script, I didn't think about budget. I wrote it as if I had the budget to make Star Wars. Okay.
So we got the money.
I said, let's try the Indiegogo campaign now and try and raise additional funds. So I set it at 50 grand. And within a day, I think we hit $250,000 or $220,000.
And 6 years after Terrifier, we get part 2. But Damien didn't just want better production value and crazier kills. Don't get me wrong, that's definitely here, but he also wanted to try and fix the major flaws of the first movie. He's even said that he likes to go through comment sections to see what people have to say. Different. And the big criticisms of the first movie were, of course, the lack of character development and plot. This, combined with the most brutal kills involving women, caused this man to even get misogynist allegations. Well, this movie pretty much addresses every criticism of the first film. 2 hours and 18 minutes for a slasher movie is crazy. So as we know from the end of Terrifier, Art has a supernatural aspect to him and comes back to life after offing himself. That's right, Big Bro is back. Hey, Big Bro.
Demon home too, pussy.
He has a slightly different look now. They got rid of the black contacts and his teeth are less bloody. However, he's still really disturbed and the kills are of course still crazy. He gouges this examiner's eyes out and puts it in his empty eye socket. Ew, stop. He then smashes his face, rips his skull open, takes his brain out, and maybe eats it? Dead and broke? He goes to the laundromat, gets naked, and washes his suit. Art the Clown ass. He then sees this little pale girl. Her bottom and top teeth are switched. She shits herself, messes around with Art's eye hole, and they become friends. Also, she's completely invisible to the other guy at the laundromat. Damien Leone gave Art supernatural abilities in the first movie to leave room for a possible sequel. And when he got the sequel, he wanted to keep expanding that lore. Most of the big slashers, with the exception of the ones whose names end in face, all have some type of unkillable supernatural element to them. It's kind of necessary in order for them to survive bullshit, but that's hardly ever explored. Moving forward, Art's abilities are pretty central to his character, and this girl is one of the main ways this movie explores them. We fast forward a year and are introduced to Sienna Shaw, an actual final girl character with depth who you can root for, and much different from previous characters as she does not only exist within the context of being chased by Art. Look, she's making a warrior costume for Halloween that was designed by her father who recently passed away. She has a mom, a little brother who's fucked.
Did you figure out what you're dressing up as tomorrow?
The Miles County Clown.
And she also has some sort of connection to Art, which we first see in the Clown Cafe scene. Sienna has a dream that she is in the Clown Cafe. Everyone's fucked up, coked out. Yo, this kid is eating Art Krispies, which contain razor blades and insects. Why even add the marshmallows? Art shows up and he's on that weird shit again. He shoots up the cafe and lights people on fire with the flamethrower. All that dick riding for what? He tries to go after Sienna, but she's able to whip out a sword that her dad made, which protects her from the fire. This leads to her dresser catching fire in real life, but the sword is completely fine. I smell a signature weapon. This whole sequence kind of foreshadows her inevitable encounter with Art. She's not just freaked out by him. There's also this weird familiarity between them. This isn't just some silly little dream that you brush off. Art is haunting her specifically. This same exact thing actually happened to me, but with Eddie Murphy. Sienna goes with her friend Allie to buy wings for her Valkyrie costume after hers got burned in the fire. And they run into Art. I know we've established that he's a really good character and David Howard Thornton kills this, but they really do such a great job of balancing him being hilarious, but also sadistic and deranged, and then using that to build tension. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Him switching poses between cuts is so good. There's this 5-minute stretch at this Halloween store where he's just being a freak, and it's funny, but you're also just waiting for him to tweak out.
Get the hell out of here before I fuck you up.
Alright, so as far as the timeline goes, it's currently Halloween, a year after the events of Terrifier 1, the Miles County Massacre. So the first 5 minutes of that movie just happened. Art is presumed dead, so when Sienna sees him at the Halloween store, she's unsettled, but she thinks he's just some freaky cosplayer. During this time, Sienna and Art's connection is also made more clear when her brother Jonathan shows her their dad's sketchbook. There's a newspaper article about Art's first victim, who kind of looks like the little pale girl, freak shit, a sketch of Art, and kills from the first movie. That man was fighting crazy demons. I know he went to sleep every night with a little headache. There's also a drawing of a character that Jonathan believes is supposed to represent Sienna, which would explain their dad giving her a sword before he died. Sienna might be the chosen one to stop Art. But why was he drawing this? I'm going to talk about the bedroom scene now. I don't think anything could have prepared me for how abrupt this scene is. Like, this happened so fast. Sienna's friend Allie is passing out candy when Art comes by like, please give me some candy. And Annie tells him to fuck off. Later that night, Art comes back and breaks in. Allie goes downstairs. And I like how at first it isn't clear whether or not Art knows that she's there watching him. And then he goes from being super chill to extremely sick. He chases her up to her bedroom, and I mean, he doesn't even kill her. This fucker obliterates her. There are so many things that are done to the human body in this scene. Damn near anything that would make you squirm is in this. Scalping, the breaking of limbs, the slicing and ripping of skin. This all happens in what feels like 30 seconds. And once again, the way Art kills is so messy and chaotic. He uses scissors to cut her scalp off. When he breaks her arm, he cranks it back and forth before pulling her forearm and hand off. Imagine taking the tab off of a can. That's what he's doing with her arm. And as if it couldn't get any worse, when she's like 70% dead with most of her skin ripped off, Art comes back for round 2, pours bleach on her, then literally pours salt in her wounds and rubs it around. Sorry, I almost spit up. Holy shit. This scene is grotesque. So much so that I rushed to YouTube to check out the behind the scenes. Of course, it's pretty much all practical and done by Damien. They should have kept this in. While the plot and characters are much improved from the first film, I think it's this scene that makes Terrifier 2 go from being a solid horror movie that you log on Letterboxd and keep it pushing to something that you feel the need to tell people about. And it's really this movie that made Art the Clown way more popular. There were stories of people fainting and walking out during screenings.
One person tweeted, "My friend passed out and the theater called an ambulance."
I would be so pissed if a movie slutted me out so badly that my friend had to call an ambulance. Protecting my identity with this fuck-ass emoji. I'm fighting for my life in front of the Studio Ghibli cutout. Literally about to die without having ever seen Ponyo. They were talking about this movie on daytime talk shows.
It's the most gory film I've ever seen. I mean, this is daytime. I can't.
Where the crowds look like this. It got the Stephen King cosign. You see way more of him on Halloween now. There's calf tats. I imagine a lot of people saw this before even seeing the first movie. And I think this scene is a big reason why. It's the signature kill of these movies, and I think it helped make Art a modern horror icon. The scene ends when Allie's mom comes home to find her completely ravaged, and Art is still messing around with her. How is she still alive? This man cuts the mom's head off, puts candy in it, and hands it out to kids, then has the audacity to enforce treat limits. Whore. Sienna goes to a Halloween party with her other friend Brooke after getting her suit up seen. They're doing this fantasy warrior thing, and I like how it plays into the movie being more mythological, with Art and Sienna destined to fight as good versus evil. At the party, Brooke slips Molly in Sienna's drink, which is pretty messed up, but she just vibes.
Yo, can I get a selfie?
Sure.
Fuck yeah, girl.
Did you even take it? Back at home, Jonathan tries to talk about his dad's sketchbook with his mom, because it's weird, but she rips it up and says that his dad was sick.
You're such a bitch.
Don't you ever say that to me again.
I am your mother. Do you understand?
Jonathan then runs away and she does not go after him. Classic. She goes to the garage and sees that her car has been mysteriously freaked, and while she's cleaning it off, Art, who has just been chilling in the front seat, blows her head off. Jonathan runs back home after seeing the little pale girl and finds his mom's dead body propped up at the dinner table as Art slaps mashed potatoes on her blown apart head. I know it could have been something worse like green beans, but holy shit. And him putting one scoop of mashed potatoes on the outer part of the plate like that is way too far. He gets kidnapped and the little pale girl is able to mimic his voice, so she calls Sienna and gets her to come to this abandoned carnival with Brooke and her boyfriend. When Sienna goes to look for Jonathan, Art shows up to the car and stabs Brooke's boyfriend in the dick like 30 times and rips it off. Severed dick is crazy. He then chases Brooke down and throws acid on her face. Fluoroantimonic acid, which is apparently the strongest acid in the world and can dissolve glass. Who did he get this from?
I'm gonna need you to fuck off me right now.
It even protonates some hydrocarbons to avoid pentacoordinate carbocations, carbonium ions. He then kills her and it's terrible. All the kills in these movies are so brutal. First the acid, then he destroys her knees, then he smashes her chest. He kills everyone so hard. They all die like 4 times. Sienna shows up and gets knocked out by Art, then wakes up to find him slicing Jonathan with the scalpel. So they fight. And unlike the first movie, we get a real final fight. Having characters that we can actually root for and can do significant damage to Art changes a lot. I found this much more entertaining. Sienna beats the shit out of Art, but unfortunately he's supernatural. He stabs her with her own sword and pushes her down a portal to hell / the clown cafe, and she lands in a water tank. Jonathan somehow gets knocked out and wakes up to Art eating his hand, who then bites into his calf as he tries to get away. And then things get a little bonkers. So Sienna just straight up dies, but her dad's sword resurrects her. Okay. I don't know, I kind of respect how they just go for it, because what do you mean the magical sword brings her back to life after getting pushed into a portal to the clown cafe and drowning? Sienna then cuts Art's head off, and the little pale girl collects it and walks off. Roll the credits, but it's not over. Fuck it, mid-credit scene. Victoria Hayes, the final girl from Terrifier 1, is at Miles County Psychiatric after killing that TV anchor. Is that Chris Jericho? Apparently he really liked the first movie and asked if he could be in the sequel. Pretty incredible. But yeah, Victoria's pregnant and writing a bunch of degenerate shit on her cell wall with her own blood. And she ends up giving birth to Art's severed head. This movie is good. You really can't overstate how much Sienna improves things. This feels like a more complete horror film rather than a highlight tape for Art's kills. I was actually invested in the story and wanted to see her win. And I think she makes Art that much better by giving him a compelling character to go against, not targets whose only purpose is to be horrifically killed by him. The Joker needs his Batman. Holy shit, that was terrible. Fuck! This movie expands on Art's supernatural abilities and takes a very different direction than the first Terrifier. Like, it's one thing for Art to be immortal, it's another thing for one of his victims to give birth to his live head. There's the clown cafe stuff, the little pale girl, Sienna also might be supernatural. There's a lot of unanswered questions, but I like that there's clearly a story that's trying to be told, instead of just giving us a new set of teens for Art to kill. Damien figured it out. This movie made $15 million off a budget of like $300K with essentially no marketing. Art got over the hump and solidified himself as a great. It's like when Braun got his first ring, my glorious king. And this success allowed Damien to let his nuts hang and make a third movie. I remember first saying that this movie was a thing and wondering, how does this guy have 3 movies? And now that I'm here, I think it's incredible. After watching All Hallows Eve, Terrifier, and Terrifier 2, it was suddenly Halloween night. Oh! So I went to my local cinema and saw Terrifier 3, the superior October 2024 clown movie. And it was rather electric. Usually the further you get into a slasher franchise, the more they turn into root for the villain kind of movies. I don't do that. But when you have a really good slasher villain and no other real characters to get attached to, the appeal is just the slasher racking up kills. They're the star. But Damien didn't want you to get too comfortable with Art like that. And the first 10 minutes of this movie is him reminding you that Art is very despicable and sick. One of the main things that I was hearing about this movie before going to see it were the epic walkouts. The stories of people being immediately disgusted. NBA 2K legend Cash Nasty claimed that he walked out within the first 10 minutes, and I was like, no, fuck. And I get it. It's insane. In the opening sequence, Art is reintroduced as even more sadistic than before. On Christmas Eve, he breaks into this family's house, and the humor is non-existent. Dickhead Art is not here. He walks upstairs and chops up this little kid while his sister is watching.
Juliet, I told you to stay out of my room.
Now, as we know, Art has killed kids before, just not in the Terrifier movies. But instead of only seeing the aftermath of it, which is still terrible, you actually hear the kid being axed. I was quite jarred. I walk in the theater like, what's up, cocksuckers? Happy Halloween. I've got my popcorn that's so fucking buttery. It's so fucking buttery I could squeal. And then this. Super effective though. Wiped the smile right off my face. And as expected, he proceeds to kill the entire family, and it's disgusting. He just targets the most awkward places of the body, like the belly button or right below the shoulder. So sloppy. And after this, he has the audacity to kick his feet up and eat cookies. Why was it so hard? Nah. Imagine you're Santa, right? You've been going crazy all night, team morale isn't amazing. Blitzen is putting up another all-time performance just for sorry-ass Rudolph to take the credit. You're tired, maybe a little annoyed, and then you see that classic cookies and milk combo. And it's talking to you. Little whispers, eat me, eat me. And then you bite into this fucking brick. Like at that point, just leave an unsealed package of Chips Ahoy on the table because clearly you don't care. He at least washes his dishes though. He has some decorum. Suddenly, we are 5 years in the past, which is where the last movie left off. Victoria gave birth to Art's head, and he's eating a worker's face while she's sucking nutrients from, I don't know, is this the umbilical cord? Art's headless body awakens and decapitates a cop. Then he's in blackface. Then he shows up to the asylum to get his head back. And our beloved Chris Jericho is unfortunately killed. The fact that we didn't get a Codebreaker or Walls of Jericho is criminal. Art and Vicky are booed up on the metro. Me and who? Then they show up to this abandoned house and go into hibernation for 5 years. Now, to the surprise of no one, the kills in this are insane. I feel like I keep saying that, but I promise I mean it this time. They get pretty creative here in the most disgusting ways possible. Some construction workers wake Art and Victoria up from their sleep, and Art just rips this guy's entire scalp and face off. During which Victoria takes a shard of glass and does unspeakable things to her. But luckily it's indestructible. Naughty freak. There's a point where Art goes off on a side mission and sees Santa at a bar. This shot out of context is hilarious. He freezes him with liquid nitrogen, smashes him with a hammer, rips his beard off, and sticks a carrot nose on his destroyed face. There's the shower scene where they used 20 gallons of blood and actually ran out of blood while shooting it. Art interrupts a couple having shower sex with a chainsaw, exactly like Psycho. He takes the chainsaw to the guy's gooch, then flips him over, goes back to the gooch, and cuts his dick off. This is the freakiest version of Art. Obviously, they wanted to top the bedroom scene, and while I think that's probably still the craziest kill, this is really close for me, and the kills before this would easily be the craziest moment in your average horror movie. This is definitely the most gory of all the films, purely by kill volume. And each one is like 4 minutes, not including jokey foreplay. And I think here we get the best balance of Art being goofy and ridiculously psychotic. The humor is still very much present.
You sound like you want to fuck him.
I don't want to fuck him.
But the movie never lets you forget that he is so sinister. He can never just chill and catch a vibe. He always gotta ruin shit. There's a scene where he pretends to be a mall Santa, and I thought the whole thing would be, oh, the kids and their parents don't know he's a serial killer. And then he gets kicked out, and that's it.
I don't know what I got. Corey!
A fucking bomb? He blew up kids. He blew up kids. This is also by far the most well-made movie of the franchise. Which makes sense. The budget, while still not crazy by Hollywood standards, is still like sextuple the first one. Meaning a bigger crew, which meant Damien could just focus on directing for once. I think this is the first movie where he doesn't do the special effects. And shocker, the movie benefits from him not having to do everything. The performances are better, and there are stylistic shot choices that are just not really present in the other movies. This is easily the best looking film. All Hallows Eve cost like $5. Terrifier 1 had this teal look to it. He had to color grade it himself because of the budget. Terrifier 2 was a huge step up in production quality, but the focus definitely went more towards the gore. And then there's this, which really has that cinematic look to it. For a movie that is so disturbed, I actually found it quite pleasant to look at. More attention was given to the lighting and colors. This is the first of these movies to use anamorphic lenses, which I think helped give it this warm, dreamy look. It's perfect for Christmas. And I like that it's a Christmas movie, because why not? Which Terrifier movie is the best is up for debate. I think it's this one, but this is definitely the most polished. I say all this as I'm currently having to rewatch this movie in 60p with what I believe to be Russian subtitles. Sienna is of course here. She's pretty much tweaking the entire time. And I mean, understandably so. She went through a lot in the last movie. She's been at a treatment and recovery center for the past 5 years and is now staying with her aunt's family. She's having hallucinations and her relationship with Jonathan is cooked.
We have to call Jonathan right now! I need it!
For a lot of this movie, her role feels smaller than it did in Terrifier 2, but we do get more lore and it's confirmed that she's the chosen one. Essentially, demons can enter this world through a human host. A demon in the form of the little pale girl resurrected Art at the end of Terrifier, and then possessed Victoria at the end of Terrifier 2. And whenever a demon enters the world, someone is appointed to go against it. The whole good versus evil thing. So Sienna is the only one that can stop Art and this demon. And they know this, so they want to do enough heinous shit to break her will, which would allow her to be possessed. The ending of this film is them trying to do that. It's a lot. Art and Victoria break into Sienna's aunt's house. Bro. They kill her uncle and use his head as the star on the tree. Claim to have killed Jonathan, but we don't actually see it, so I imagine he'll be back for Terrifier 4. And then in what might be the most disgusting part of this movie, they force feed rats to Sienna's aunt and then slice her throat to let them out. For most of this movie, the supernatural stuff is pretty minimal, but it gets nutty here at the end. There's full-on attempted possession. Sienna kills Victoria with her sword, who melts into a portal to hell that Sienna's niece falls into. Wow. Art runs away after taking an uncomfortable amount of damage, and Sienna's battle scars heal.
Gabby, I'll find you.
How can she lose if she's already chose?
It's a rhetorical question.
And the movie ends with Art dissociating on a bus with this girl who's reading a book called The Ninth Circle. Okay, so I remember first seeing Art the Clown when Terrifier was on Netflix and thinking that clown looks unstable and freaky. I didn't watch it then, but I'm glad I have now. All of this comes from a guy who was really passionate about something, knew he had a special idea, did whatever it took to bring it to life, then improved and made it even better, and then got good enough to where he couldn't miss. And I think that's pretty inspiring. These movies are fucked, but they're cool. And I mean, come on, how could you not root for this? I will certainly be in the theaters for Terrifier 4. Yep, that's it. We're going off script here at the end of the video. Live from the studio where all the magic happens. It's a little rough right now. Small creator, fuck you. Don't say anything. But yeah, I love you guys so much. And if you made it this far, yeah, you are like insane but incredible though, and I love you. And yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that, I mean, your support, that sounded so fucking professional. I'm sorry. You guys mean a lot to me. And all the things that you guys say, that shit is hilarious. And no, it warms my heart, seriously. But yeah, I'm gonna keep making these. And yeah, hopefully you guys keep liking them. That would be cool. And yeah, I'll see you next year, in 2025. It's pretty crazy, right? All right, fucking go. Damn.